with something in my teeth. Just kidding. Hi there. I'm Sue Sally. I'm going to read to you today. Got it. Hello everyone, welcome back to Carrie's Corner. We're starting another week and continuing with The Pushcart War by Jean Merrill, illustrated by Ronnie Silbert. We're on chapter 20, The Pea Blockade. On the morning of May 11th, the mayor issued an emergency order prohibiting the sale of dried peas in New York City until peace in the streets had been restored. No peace, no peas, said the mayor in an address to the city explaining the reasons for his action. The city council, the mayor told the people, had contracted with Big Mo for 19 mighty mammoths to blockade all bridges and tunnels leading into New York. There's a little picture of the mayor doing his thing. And mammoth drivers had been instructed to search all incoming trucks for shipments of peas. And furthermore, announced the mayor, I have ordered the pea tax squad to close all pea packaging plants in the city until further notice. It was the pea blockade and the closing of all the pea packaging plants that led to the discovery of the Pushcart conspiracy, although the discovery was the purest sort of accident. All of the pea packagers in the city objected to the shutdown order, but the pea tax squad on the whole handled matters tactfully. The squad pointed out to the pea packagers that, in the first place, the pea packagers could not get any peas to package while the pea blockade was in effect, and that, in the second place, they could not get any trucks to deliver their packaged peas until there was order in the streets again. Since this was true, most of the packagers, some of them grumbling a little and some of them grumbling a lot, did as they were ordered. They dismissed their workers and locked up their plants. On the whole, the pea blockade went smoothly, until the pea tax squad arrived at Posey's plant. Mr. P. Posey of Posey's Peas, by the ounce, by the pound, by the ton, did not give up so easily. Although Mr. Posey had advertised his peas by the ounce, by the pound, by the ton for 31 years, he had never had an order for a ton of peas until the spring of the Pushcart War. Most of his business was by the pound. Mr. Posey's biggest order in pre-war days had been a 300-pound order from a church that was having a baked pea barbecue. Ever since the one-ton order, Mr. Posey had had big ideas. He was full of plans for expanding his business, and naturally he did not want to close down his plant just as his advertising was beginning to pay. With the profits from his one-ton order, Mr. Posey had laid in a large supply of peas, enough to last through a long blockade. However, he did not use trucks to deliver his packaged peas. Mr. Posey was an old-fashioned pea merchant, and he had his peas delivered by pushcart. He had found that the pushcarts could get through the crowded streets more easily and often faster than the trucks. Also, their charges for delivery were less. The one-ton order had been delivered in 20 100-pound sacks by 4 pushcarts. So, with a good supply of peas in his plant and no need for trucks to deliver them, Mr. Posey saw no reason at all for closing up his plant. Most of his business, and here's a picture of the truck blockade in front of the bridge. Not letting anybody in or out with peas. So, most of his business was with small restaurants that featured pea soup, and he could not see that pea soup had anything to do with the war on the streets. This is a peaceful pea plant, Mr. Posey said to Mrs. Posey, who helped him in the business, and nobody is going to shut us down without a fight. Chapter 21, The Barricade at Posey's Plant. When the pea tax squad arrived at Posey's plant on the second morning of the pea blockade, they found the doors barricaded with 100-pound sacks of dried peas. Open up, ordered the chief of the pea tax squad when 6 squad men could not budge the door. Mayor's orders, he explained, when he saw Mr. Posey glaring down at him from a second-story window of the plant. I'm closed today, Mr. Posey called down, for business reasons. Tell the mayor. Well, open up because I have to close you up, said the chief. I'm very busy right now, said Mr. Posey. The pea tax squad finally had to call the fire department. Fire engines came roaring down the street, bringing with them a large crowd. 2 firemen took an axe to Posey's door. When Mr. Posey saw the firemen chopping through his door, he and his wife began bombarding the firemen and the pea tax squad from the second floor with 10-pound sacks of dried peas. One fireman and 2 squadmen were knocked unconscious, and another squadman slipped on the dried peas that were rolling all over the sidewalk and broke his wrist. When the firemen finally broke through the door and began hacking their way through the 100-pound sacks of peas Mr. Posey had stacked against it, a torrent of peas poured into the street. Hundreds of children had gathered by now and began excitedly stuffing their pockets with peas. By the time the squad men had fought their way through the barricade, they were pretty mad. They seized Mr. Posey and his wife and tied them up. They had to, as the Poseys kept throwing sacks of peas at them. The chief of the P-TAC squad then demanded to know why Mr. Posey had barricaded his door. Mr. Posey, who was close to tears by now, told the truth. He said that he had closed up his place of business because he did not want the P-TAC squad closing it up. Naturally, this is too simple an explanation to satisfy the chief of the P-TAC squad. "You're manufacturing something illegal in there, maybe?" he asked Mr. Posey. "Counterfeit money? Dynamite?" "Dynamite?" said Mr. Posey scornfully. "If I had dynamite, would I be wasting perfectly good sacks of peas throwing them from a second-story window?" "This is a 100% legal pea packaging plant," said Mr. Posey, "and all I have in this place is peas and 5, 10, 25, and 100-pound sacks for packaging them. If you untie me, I will show you what kind of business I run." "We'll see for ourselves," said the chief of the P-TAC squad, and he ordered 2 of his men to search Mr. Posey's plant. The squad men searched the plant from top to bottom, and they did not find anything but peas in 5, 10, 25, and 100-pound sacks. One of the men suggested to the chief that the sacks of peas might be a hiding place for something else, such as smuggled diamonds. "Diamonds?" said Mrs. Posey. "You think we're throwing diamonds out a second-story window? It's bad enough we should waste so many peas." The chief, however, took out a jackknife and ripped open a dozen 100-pound sacks of peas. Dried peas cascaded all over the room, and the P-TAC squad found itself up to its ankles in peas. The chief ordered the squad to sift through the peas to make sure there were no packets of diamonds or pearls or gold nuggets or maybe uranium concealed among the peas. The squad men who had suggested the diamonds wished he had kept still. When his men found nothing, the chief only grew more suspicious. By the way, here's a little picture of the peas pouring out the window and out the front door. He asked to have Mr. Posey's business records brought to him. It was only after the chief had leafed carefully through Mr. Posey's books, which dated back 31 years, that the chief began to feel a little ashamed. The book showed clearly that the only product Mr. Posey had sold during his long business career was dried peas. Most of the orders the chief saw were for 10 and 25-pound sacks. He realized then that Mr. Posey had to work very hard at his small business to make a living, and that he had made a wreck of Mr. Posey's place of business for nothing. The chief was about to close the order books and to apologize to Mr. Posey for causing him so much trouble when his eyes fell on Wendy Gambling's order for 1 ton of peas. The chief only noticed the entry because it was for such a large number of peas as compared to Mr. Posey's usual orders. "Not Wendy Gambling, the movie star?" said the chief. "Why not?" said Mrs. Posey. "Posey's peas are a quality product." "But what does a movie star want with a ton of peas?" asked the chief. "How do I know?" said Mr. Posey. "Should I ask a customer's private business? Maybe she's planting a pea farm for a hobby, or maybe she's starting a pea soup plant." "Or a pea shooter plant," laughed the chief. "Why not?" said Mr. Posey. "Why not?" agreed the chief. "Well, Mr. Posey, I think we've bothered you long enough." He untied Mr. Posey and his wife and explained to Mr. Posey that even if he was running a 100% legal pea packaging business, he would have to close his plant until the pea blockade was over. "What difference does it make now?" said Mr. Posey. "I cannot clean up the mess you've made of my plant in less than a month." "Why not?" shouted the chief suddenly. "Why not? Why not?" "Because it's a mess, that's why," yelled Mr. Posey. "No, no, no, no," said the chief. "Never mind the mess. I mean, why not a pea shooter plant for Wendy Gambling?" "What does Wendy Gambling want a pea shooter plant?" asked Mr. Posey. "Why not?" the chief said again. "I mean, who knows? Do you have the bill for Miss Wanda Gambling's 1 ton of peas?" "I have a carbon copy," said Mr. Posey. "Let me see it," ordered the chief. The bill was made out to Miss Wanda Gambling at the Plaza Hotel. However, the chief noticed that the 1 ton of peas had not been delivered to Wendy Gambling's apartment at the Plaza Hotel, but to Maxie Hammerman's shop. The chief pointed to Maxie's address. "Aha," he said. "Aha, what?" said Mr. Posey. He saw nothing odd about the order. He delivered peas to whatever address his customers requested. "Maxie Hammerman, that's what," said the chief. "So," said Mr. Posey, "maybe they were a birthday present. Who is Maxie Hammerman?" It happened that the chief of the P-Tax squad was one of the few people in New York City, outside of the pushcart peddlers and Maxie's personal friends, who knew who Maxie was. "Maxie Hammerman," said the chief thoughtfully, "is the Pushcart King." And that brings us to the end of today's reading of the Pushcart War by Jean Merrill. And we are continuing tomorrow, Chapter 12, the raid on Maxie Hammerman's. See you next time. Have a great rest of your day and beginning of your week. Bye-bye. Bye.